10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have ignition.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. It's been a while, hasn't it? Many apologies for those of you who aren't on the Twitch streams. I moved house just after the new year and couldn't record because I kept waking up kiddo, but I now have a dedicated space where I can do this and hopefully can get back into some of my my old habits, my old swing of things, of cranking out one whole video a week. Perhaps that might be a little ambitious. It might be every other week, but we'll see what happens. I've been very much enjoying my time on Twitch working through the How Not to RP1 Season 3. So if you're not currently following me on Twitch, go check that out. Anyway, I should probably talk about what we're doing, since this is from the old RP-0 save that is just about 6 years old. And yes, you were not deceived. That was an RA9 launching an Origami 3M into low Earth orbit. This is our origami glider that has had massive success on Venus and Titan, and we're hoping to see similar success with this slightly modified vehicle going to Mars. Obviously, it's not going to retain its glide slope like it did on its other two missions, but you know, maybe it'll do something fun, and maybe we can hit a new biome. Unfortunately, we were quite a bit off on our predictions for this launch and the Delta V required for this window, so we're going to end up using a lot more fuel than I thought we would, and this includes even transferring in some of the emergency backup fuel from the Aero shell itself, used for balancing during the capture maneuver, and even the glider. And unfortunately, it just does not look like the Delta V is there. So it was a good attempt, but we're going to have to move swiftly along to our Mars supply rover launch. This is, of course, on a DN6 Delta. God, I've forgotten all the names of my rockets. I really need to boot this save back up. I haven't been in it in so long that I don't know, it's like visiting an old friend at this point. SRP SEP is good, and our very awkwardly shaped DN6 angles its nose cone towards space in hopes that maybe it will have better success than the RA9 that preceded it. The good news is we have a lot more margin on Delta V on this super heavy lift vehicle. We've got 4.186 kilometers per second to work with on our transfer stage, which will light up as soon as our core stage finishes doing its job. We should be able to hit orbit just on the core stage alone with some excess Delta V left in the tank, as per usual. It's just the RS-25 wiggle dance, and there it is. Stage SEP, solar panel deploy. We'll make sure the radiators are booted, turned on, fired up, so that they can prevent as much boil off as they can manage as we start to plot for Mars, which is a 4.302 meter per second, and we're just going to delay that by an orbit or two so that we can avoid that stupid moon and get ourselves quietly underway as quickly as possible and with as few interruptions as possible. We're going to try to make slight adjustments to our ejection node in hopes that maybe we can get just a little bit closer to our intended target. I just, sometimes these things just don't cooperate. So we are also going to unlock the thrusters on our payload just so that we can pivot a little cleaner and take advantage of some of that fuel. I guess the idea here is that hopefully we will carry this Delta upper stage all the way to Mars with us. We don't have much choice. We need its solar panels. It's there whether it wants to be or not. That's just the way it is. So, and then hopefully it'll have just a touch of fuel left that will help us perform a braking maneuver at Mars before we perform the Aero capture, and then subsequent Aero braking passes while we can wait for a good alignment with our surface research station to deliver them this much needed food, water, oxygen, and spare parts, some tools, maybe nice handwritten letters and excellent calligraphy from loved ones at home, because oh man, some of these Kerbals have been on deployment for nearly half a decade, sometimes a little bit more. And yeah, looks like we're about 50 meters per second or so shy, but we will be correcting for that later on. And so now it is time for Mars Crew 5 to go join Mars Crew 4 that is currently deployed on station. They were the last crew that landed on Mars and had to kind of rush the hell on out of there as their batteries were dying, and we're hoping to fix that with the new supply rovers. If we can get a second one attached, it has its own set of solar panels, and of course more batteries, some RTGs, things of that nature that will hopefully help make that installation semi-permanent. I would really like to keep a crewed presence on Mars indefinitely. Booster Sep 1, clean it away. Booster Sep 2 is now also clean it away. This is the BPR rocket with a chestnut up top. We've been flying this thing for a very long time, and honestly, for as weird as it is, I'm still really proud of it. With the there's no cross fueling on this. This is not asparagus staging. It is just the first set of boosters to go has 3 engines. The second boosters to go has 2 RD1. They're all RD 172s. Yeah, just first set of boosters has 3. Second set has 2, or maybe it's 4, 3, and then 2. Because I don't think a booster has 1, and then the core stage has many, but it runs the longest. So we have jettisoned our launch stages, and we're now running on 5 RS-25 engines that will get us just shy of orbit, and then the Echo upper stage will take over to help deliver that last little nudge to get us the rest of the way there, because of course this is one of our very few propulsive capture machines, so we need to have a bunch of fuel left in that tank if we are going to get there on time. So we will plot for Mars, and this node is 3.895 kilometers per second. Of course, we've got 4.6 or so some odd kilometers per second of delta V in the tanks, so we should be more than good to go. This thing was slightly over-engineered because, well, when there's crew involved, I'm only willing to risk them if it has wings, and not if it or wheels. Wings or wheels. That's where we can have acceptable losses, not on capsules and things of that nature. Anyway, we have a solid light from the 3 HG3 engines at the bottom of our Echo upper stage, and that will help give them that good solid push, hopefully all the way to Mars. Our crew this time is Ludmina. I'm not even gonna. I can't even. I'm so sorry. Stephen Hudson and Lee Lambert. And I think we are actually dealing with 3 Mars rookies at this point, although I think we decided to bring an engineer with some experience in hopes that maybe they could repair a wheel on another busted rover out there. We shall have to see. Coming up on the end of this burn, and hopefully we'll have a nice little intercept. We do. It's not nice, but it's little. We'll make a mid-course correction to fix that up later, make sure that crew gets on point. And now we have our Mars Descent ascent vehicle launch. This is going to be the vehicle that ferries the crew down to the surface and then hangs out there for a while, waiting for them to finish up their business and then ferry them back to Harmonia Station in low Mars orbit. Oh yeah, making changes to my custom window to show, well, to move things around, basically. Alright, there is our aeroshell and our solar panel deploys. We were waiting once again for the core stage of this DN6 Delta to finish its job, delivering us to low Earth orbit. There it goes, and because this payload is just a little bit lighter, we got about 5.3 kilometers per second available to us, which is fantastic because, you know, the more fuel we can use on this thing to get us into orbit, the better. And we seem to have lost some thrusters on a freak accident, so I think there was an F5, F9 involved in there because you can't just have your thrusters falling off your descent vehicle. That Aero shell stays on. It's just the beans up top that are responsible for performing rendezvous and docking, and then the beans will be disposed of. They also contain excess liquid hydrogen to help counteract boil off in transit, and while we're just kind of sitting on station. So I guess the objective here is for this to dock to Harmonia Station, hopefully within a few hours of there being a good alignment with the surface base, and then the crew will board, do some system checks, make sure everything is great while we still have precious liquid hydrogen in the tanks, and then make their descent as quickly as possible. So the HG3 on the Delta upper stage has had a good light. We are going to be ejecting from Earth, and now it's just time to hopefully shut down those engines in just the perfect amount of time to get a rendezvous. And I failed. It's weird to think that I do fly all of these missions manually, because I fly literally nothing manually when it comes to the RP1 install. But this encounter is good enough to where I can just try to tweak it a little bit. And for another 177 meters per second, we do not have to worry about this thing at all ever again until it gets to Mars, and then we can make our propulsive / aero capture maneuver to hopefully, get some things sorted out and get this thing into Mars orbit, so Crew 5 can carry out their mission. Back to the launch pad yet again. We are now on supply rover number 2. We do try to launch these in pairs, just in case one should fail. The other one probably won't. And, when is it a bad thing to have too many supplies on the surface next to your Mars station? I mean, it isn't. Even though there won't be a free docking port, if both missions are successful, then we can, hook them up using a Kerbal attachment system and the tubes and hoses and whatnot. So, redundancy is safety. Boosters are away, SRBs are away, fairings are away, and not necessarily in that particular order. We're just going to double check our alarms to make sure we're not running into one of our correction nodes while we try frantically to get all of these launches out the door in such a tiny Mars window. But yet again, DN6 has delivered us to orbit, and it is now time to plot ourselves for Mars. 3.8 kilometers per second of maneuver node necessary. We'll go ahead and get ourselves turned into the node and wait for time to light up that HG3 and just kind of hope for the best. I don't know what fuel in there I was trying to unlock. It's probably, thruster fuel, perhaps. So we will we'll just have to see. But 7 minutes out, it's 5 minutes out. Crash, what are you doing? It's time to light this engine. There it goes. Thank goodness. We're a little behind the curve here, but I think all in all, it's hopefully going to go quite well for us. I mean, again, it's always nice to have more supplies than not enough supplies. And this is probably me going to take a small break based on the ever predictable cinematic shot. So, there's that. I will kind of give you a spoiler for what's coming up in the next episode, is that this vehicle gets a redesign, and I absolutely cannot wait to fly it again, because, well, landings on these sorts of things are just a little, they're hairy, but they're fun. I guess it wouldn't be fun unless there was some level of stress involved, or some level of precision or skill needed. It's just really sad that I've been doing this for 6 years, and, well, I've definitely not improved those skills. So it does look like we need a correction maneuver. We're just trying to figure out the best place to put that, if we should do it closer to Earth or just a little further out. But it looks like for 280 some odd meters per second, we can get ourselves right where we need to be, which uses up most of the 400 meters per second we have left stored in the tank. But hey, it is what it is. That's why that fuel is there, is because I am a terrible pilot. So we'll wait until we're almost on top of that node. We'll make sure our thrusters can stay topped off before lighting that HG3 and bringing ourselves much, much closer to our intended destination. I shut the engine down way too soon, so we're going to spend a whole lot of Aerozine kind of correcting for this and trying to get ourselves back on track. And yeah, being now 3 minutes past the node, it takes a little bit of wiggling to dial it in, but we did in fact get it figured out. And so now we will be launching a slightly brand new vehicle. This is still a DN6 launch vehicle, but it is now no longer. This is obviously not a DN6D or DN6 Delta. This is a DN6N. Guess what the N stands for? That's right. I finally broke down and agreed to use a Nerva for heavier things. It just makes more sense to use good old chemical propulsion, because I can get roughly the same deliverable payloads from an HG3 powered upper stage that I can from a Nerva powered one, and the burn times are 10 minutes instead of like 6 hours, which if you're trying to play and do it primarily on live stream, be like, hey, all right, everyone, guess what we're doing for the next 3 weeks? Single burns. Yeah, and honestly, without a mod like burn in the background or whatever it's called that lets you keep the engines lit while you're off doing something else, it's only worth it for the most hardcorest of hardcore. Now, this mission is not going to Mars. We have moved right past our Mars window and are now going on to Saturn. I do believe this is a SNSE Enceladus mission. And so with our new payload almost in orbit, it'll take just a quick tap from that Nerva to finish out our circularization. And with 9.278 kilometers per second available in the tanks, we can go ahead and set up our window. And it looks like our transfer is going to be 8.3 kilometers per second, which seems slightly absurd, but hey, that's why we have 9 kilometers per second available to us. We'll be able to haul some of this fuel with us and maybe even start our braking burn when we get there without ever having to light up the payload itself. That's not even the payload. It's the payload's orbital insertion stage. We're going to try to do Enceladus direct. No goofing about. No gravity assists or flybys or any of those efficiency things that like real space programs have to do. We're just going to brute force it because we can. And also we are going to split this burn into 2 parts because we have to. And this is the downfall of the Nervas, is that it takes, the TWR is just so incredibly low that you really, if you want to go interplanetary, you have to plan for this and eject early, because you're probably going to have to take a lap and then finish your ejection second pass. And based on how much time you can expend on that maneuver node, like I think we started this burn 10 minutes in, and we're going to finish it close to 10 minutes out, which becomes horribly inefficient. But we are, in fact, going to go to Saturn. It's just, by how much. So we're going to try to dial this in and try to make it, not so stupid, I guess, but it's still another 700 meters per second. And somehow we only have 200 left in our tank. So I guess I really, really, really borked up this maneuver, or this Trans-Saturn injection maneuver, because man, that's harsh. I guess we'll just come back to it a little later. And in other news, Mars Crew 5 has finally arrived at Mars. Just to show you the kind of gaps we're just kind of playing with the space program right now. It's just kind of time warping from window to window, all laissez-faire and whatnot. But they have 804 meters per second remaining in their Echo upper stage. That engine will be lit and it will then be jettisoned, and we will light up our Chestnut main engine, which is N1 Block 5, I believe. Oh man, it has been entirely too long. So we're just going to time these things out, and of course the rest of our capture maneuver will be handled. But thankfully, because we had such a clean, excellently good transfer window, with relatively little energy necessary to capture. We're going to retain about 4 kilometers per second in our main fuel tanks, which if we were going to get greedy, we could use to burn to just lower our orbit and go straight to rendezvous. But what we are going to do instead is make a small burn, not even a burn, probably. I think this is going to be an RCS maneuver to adjust our inclination with Harmonia Station, and then we'll make a series of aero braking passes to lower our orbit into something slightly more acceptable before lighting again to make our rendezvous, and then the rest of that will just be performed on thrusters, and will likely be handled, kind of off camera, probably, because, well, you've seen how painful some of these dockings can be, especially when you're dealing with these really high part count vessels and really slow frame rates. It can take hours, so I'll probably spare that from you. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out. It was really good to see you all again, and I will see all of you in the next one. Till then, see you later.